All right, good morning, everyone, or I suppose good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Thanks for joining us here today for we'll kind of do these bi-weekly office hours sessions. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get into the questions for today. Your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see you, we can't hear you if you've got noise in the background or anything. No worries about that. If you have to drop off early or you're just not able to hear every question or something, we do record this masterclass and it will be up on the onX Hunt YouTube channel either later today or tomorrow morning. Just depends how fast YouTube can get everything uploaded there. We'll also send you guys a link tomorrow directly to that YouTube video if you can't find it on the onX Hunt channel. So you'll be able to go back and rewatch. If you do have questions you'd like us to address during the class, put them in the Q&A box down below. The chat is there as well if you just kind of want to chime in and say, hey, it's John from Michigan tuning in or something like that. Chat is good for that kind of stuff. It's just not as good for questions. It's harder for us to keep track of them and answer them in there. So use the Q&A box. And then stick around towards the end of the class. We're going to post a giveaway. We're giving away some Blaze Orange onX Hunt hats, some brand new ones we just got in like a week or two ago. So we'll be giving 10 or so of those away. And yeah, without any further ado, we'll get into some questions. We did take some that people sent in, when they registered for the class. So we'll do a few of those. And then hopefully some folks are dropping some live ones in the Q&A box there, and then we'll start answering those. So there's a question, will there be a wind direction setting to be able to see current or estimated wind direction from certain stand spots? So that is a feature that we have on the map right now. I'm going to pull up my map and show you what that looks like. So give me one moment to share my screen here. And so this wind direction option is available both on your mobile app and on your computer on the web map on onxmaps.com. So I'm just going to place a waypoint at this spot here, just a random waypoint, and I'm going to save it. So I've got my waypoint here. And then if you take a look, if I click on it, and you can do this with any waypoint you have placed on the map currently, in my tools here, I have this wind direction option. If I click that, I have two different options to choose from. I can have it show me the current wind. So it'll show up on my map like this, 11-mile-an-hour wind out of the south. Or I can have it show me the optimal wind. So let's say this is a tree stand that I had placed, and I really only want to hunt it on a west wind. So I'm going to select southwest, west, and northwest. That's the best wind for this stand. And I apply that. Now, when I look at it, since it's a south wind, it's highlighted yellow, meaning that it's an okay wind for this stand. I might still want to sit it. If it were straight out of the west or any of those directions that I had chosen there, my lights just turned off on me, but that's okay. If the wind was out of the west, it would be showing green. If it was out of the east, it would be showing red for the worst possible wind. So you can do this for any waypoint you have. I've got some of my bird hunting spots marked, so I know where I want to start my dog, so we're facing into the wind. I've got some duck blinds where I have this set, and I've got some tree stands where I have this set. You can put them on as many waypoints as you'd like. And then if you want to set I kind of do a little of both. I have some, like my bird hunting spots, to show me what the current wind is. Because no matter what this field, I'm going to be able to hunt it. It just might depend where I start. So I just have it show me the current wind, and then I adjust from there. For my deer stands, a lot of times I have it show the optimal wind so that I can easily tell, all right, I've got these 10 deer stands. 3 of them have a good wind right now. Those are my 3 that I'm going to decide from. Something like that. So that's how you can see the wind direction on a stand spot there. Let's see. Why is it that when I zoom in the display on my phone, shows half satellite view and half road view, I-90 at Laurel, Montana. So I chose this question because it highlights kind of a common thing we see from folks. So what's happening here, give me 1 second to get back to the map here, my apologies. What's happening here is you've got a layer turned on. So I'm looking at Laurel, Montana right now. I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit. And he said it's like half satellite, half road view. That means you have this forest visitor maps layer turned on. So how I got here, go into map layers. On your phone, it's in the lower left-hand corner. Go into the roads, trails, and rec folder and turn off the forest visitor map layer. So you see, I just turned that on, and this is that forest visitor map layer. So it's going to show in some areas and not in others. These are kind of those old school, like paper maps you might get from the Forest Service or something. It's not one that I personally use ever, really. There is some information on there that you're not going to see on like our regular map, like some of the different names of different topographic or geographic features. So it might be useful to you, but that's a question we get quite a bit is, hey, what is, X, Y, or Z on my map? What's this weird coloration? Why is it all splotchy with different colored squares? Why is it showing half satellite, half, like a paper map? 9 times out of 10, it's a layer you have turned on. So if you're ever looking at your map and you're like, man, this doesn't look right, this looks different, I'm not able to see what I think I should be able to see, check out your layers and see if you'd accidentally turn something on. Forest visitor maps is a common one. This roadless areas one is another common one we see. The precipitation radar, that's another culprit that people often turn on accidentally. And then, I don't know if I'll even have an example in Montana, it's been kind of clear. But that shows, it looks like Doppler radar, on like your local weather. So we hear from people on that once in a while. So if you've got some weird coloration on your map, that's the first thing I would check. Let's see. Raymond asks, can you please put the date of the aerial photographs and the available metadata for each scale? Great suggestion, Raymond. We don't have that ability to do that right now, but that's something I can definitely pass along. We do have Gary, one of our engineers, who's also kind of co-hosting with me. I just realized I never introduced you, Gary. So consider that suggestion passed along to the engineering team. You'll get it in the hands of the right people. We'll see what we can do in the future. Let's see, Alan asked, how do I keep my iPhone on while I'm using it to follow my tracks when in my boat? So what you can do, I'm gonna go over to my iPad here. So this will look similar to what it will on your phone here. So let me get to onX. Goes out of this. So if I go up into my settings, I tap this top left corner, hit settings, and then within my map settings, you see if you go down towards the bottom, there's a button here that says keep screen always on. You can turn that on, and then when you're tracking yourself in your boat, that will keep onX on your phone. Now you do want to make sure you're aware that you have this on and you don't just put your phone in your pocket when you're hunting and then the screen's always on and it burns up your battery. So that's a feature that I will sometimes have on. Like you said, we're in the boat, we're going somewhere, I'm riding along in a car as a passenger and I want to have the map on all the time. I will turn that on. But then typically once I'm out hunting, I've got my phone in my bino harness or in my pocket, I turn that option off just so I don't forget and burn up my battery. So that's how you can do that. Close out of that. Let's see. Daryl asked question, I purchased Elite. When I'm using the app, it won't let me get the land information or hunt unit info, keeps directing me to upgrade the app. There could be one of two things going on here, Daryl. We did recently have a bug where the app wasn't recognizing that a purchase was made or that you had an Elite membership. If you can go update your app to the newest version, that should be resolved if that bug was the culprit. So that's the first step. Update your app in the App Store. Make sure you're on the most up-to-date version. If it still is directing you to upgrade, most likely what's going on is you had purchased the membership under a different email address or different login credentials. It's actually a very common thing we see with people. Just purchased it under maybe like a work email instead of a personal email or something like that. So double check the email address that you purchased it under, and make sure you're logged in with that email. If you need help, if everything still seems like it should be correct on your end, but it's asking you to upgrade, shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com. I just don't have the ability really to go in here and pull up your account, on the webinar. But our customer support team's more than happy to help out. They'll get you straightened away and they'll get everything taken care of for you so that you can access your membership. Let's see. Does onX have low-res monthly satellite view similar to the HuntStand app? We do have a low-res satellite option. It's actually every 2 weeks it's updated. So this is, you do have to have an Elite membership, but the way you can turn this on, I'm just going to show you on my iPad here. In the lower right-hand corner, I tap the base map button, and then I go and tap recent imagery. So I turn that on, you can see my map changed. I'm going to get out to kind of a forested area here. Let me see where I'm actually going to go. We'll just go into the Bob Marshall Wilderness here. And so you can see when I toggle that off and on, you can see the difference there. It is lower resolution than our regular satellite imagery. So this is our regular satellite. This is recent. If I go, let's go to the upper Midwest where we got some deciduous trees that are changing colors. Should be some in here. Then you can kind of get a better sense of things. So there's recent, there's our regular. So like we said, it's, if you're really looking to drill down and get really close to the ground, it is going to be blurry compared to our regular satellite imagery. But it is helpful for telling, you can look at crop fields and see, hey, have the crops been harvested in this area? And like I said, it's within a couple weeks. So it will tell you in the lower left-hand corner when that imagery was taken, that 2-week block of time between September 17th, October 1st. You can go back in time. So we started this option in April, March of this year. So you can go back, all the way to that first image that we got there and go through, which is kind of cool to look at. So people have used this to check water levels for duck hunting, to check crops for upland bird or deer hunting, to check if the leaves have fallen in an area, all kinds of different uses for that recent imagery. So it's a long way of answering your question. Yes, we do have low-res satellite imagery that's updated more frequently. See, Noah asked, Gary, this might be a question that's in your wheelhouse here. Will spy point trail cameras be integrated into the app at any time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I saw a couple of others come in as well. Not currently for that specific question, but for folks that haven't seen all the different kind of announcements we've made, we integrate with Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus now. So if you're using one of those brands, you simply go to those partner brand apps. There'll be a section in there for onX Hunt. You go in there and you log into your Hunt account and select which cameras you would like to integrate over to the Hunt app. And then that will kick off that integration with that brand. And of course, if you have multiple brands or you're using multiple of those brands, that's kind of where a big power of the integration comes into place, because you can have all of the cameras and images from multiple brands coming in to the Hunt app now. So those are the three brands we integrate with now. But feedback like you had, Noah, and other folks that have been writing in wanting to integrate with other partners, that's good information for us too. Maybe in the chat here, not in the Q&A feature, but in the chat, if folks are interested in other brands that I have not mentioned, once you put those in the chat there, just so we kind of know what folks are looking for.
Awesome. Question from John: how do you share tracks with other members using onX? So I don't have a track saved currently. This is an iPad that I use kind of in office for testing. But the method of sharing a track is the same as sharing any other markup. So I'm going to demonstrate how to share a waypoint. Sharing a track is exactly the same. All I'm doing here is I tapped on this waypoint I have marked at the onX office. I'm going to hit the share button down below. And then now I'm going to hit this orange share button one more time. It tells me this content is not able to be edited by anybody else. It's view only for them. I'm going to hit share. Since this is a company iPad, it doesn't have text messaging or anything like that. But once you get to this screen, you will have the option to select, texting that track or that waypoint to somebody. I can email it. I can, basically any way that you can share a link with somebody, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You're able to send that to them, and then they're able to pull it up on their end. So if you have a track you want to share on your end, tap on the track, hit the share button, and then just go through those steps. Select who you want to text it to or email it to, and once you send it, they'll just be able to open it up. They'll get a text message on their side, they'll tap on it, and it'll open up on their end. So that's sharing. Let's see. Danny asks, how do I know what date the last map was updated on? So it kind of depends what you're talking about when you're referring to the last map. We've got all kinds of different data within the app. So this is a common question we get, and it's always a little hard to answer because I don't know exactly what you're referring to, Danny. If you're talking about property owner information, that depends largely on your state and county. In Montana, for example, we've got a very robust, very well put together kind of statewide GIS data set for those property owners. That gets updated. I think it's every month. It might even be more often than that. Other states update once a year. We're only able to update as often as they update the data on their end. So in your area, it might get updated. The property ownership information might be once a month, might be quarterly, might be biannually, might be annually. Those are kind of the most common update schedules. If you're talking satellite imagery on the map, that's going to be more like years. There's a limited number of imagery providers out there. So we kind of do our best to work with providers to get the best, most up-to-date imagery that we can get. They're not doing those flyovers, weekly, monthly, or sometimes even yearly. It might be 3 years, 4 years to get that high resolution imagery. But that's kind of our general update schedule for imagery is about that 3-year or so range. If you're talking about any other data on the map, like the hunting units, that's a yearly thing. So it kind of depends. If that didn't answer your question, shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com, and we can dig in a bit more for you there, Danny. Let's see. Another question, what's the app source for property ownership? Is there a convenient way to find owner's contact info? Most of the time we get the property ownership information from your local tax assessor's office at the county level. We do that whenever it's available. So that's typically where it comes from. and we show the tax address information in there. So the address, like their mailing address where they receive their taxes, not necessarily the address of the parcel in question, because sometimes those parcels are, it's a field in the middle of nowhere, eastern Montana. There's not really an address or nobody lives there. So you've got the mailing address. We don't do phone numbers. It's a question we get quite a bit, mostly out of respect for landowners, just so that you can imagine in early mid-October how many phone calls landowners might be fielding from people wanting to hunt their place. I know landowners already that are getting sometimes dozens of calls a day during hunting season without their phone number being in onX. You can imagine how much worse that would get for them if we put phone numbers in there. So we don't have phone numbers in there, but you've got their name, you've got their mailing address. You could send a letter. You could do a Google search. You could use the phone book. They'll use the white pages to try to get a hold of them that way. Let's see. Can you share your location with other hunting party also using onX maps? Great question, John. At this time, no. We don't have, kind of internally, we call this a buddy tracker, or a party tracker where you're able to see other people within your party. We don't have that feature yet. It is something that has been talked about. Of course, it will be limited without cell service. You won't be able to see anybody else, and they won't be able to see you, just because the phones need to be able to connect and talk with each other, and send that information, kind of up to the cell tower and back down to the phone. Without that connection, you wouldn't be able to see. But certainly, a lot of people hunt and spend most of their time in areas where they do have cell service, so that's less of an issue. But that's definitely something that's on our list to hopefully bring out in the future, John. Good question. Let's see. Trying to read through some of these as quickly as I can. Drew asked about leaf off mode, where the satellite imagery goes to like a late fall, winter. Easier to see roads, easier to see trails and stuff that are covered up by the canopy. So we do have this for, Gary, I believe, is it 13 states currently, a leaf off imagery?
That's correct.
So we have this for some states. I believe they're all east of the Mississippi. What you can do is go into your imagery again, go into your base map and turn on leaf off imagery. You can kind of see on my map, we don't have it available in Montana. So your map will tell you that it's not available, but I believe we just added Wisconsin. So if I zoom in to Wisconsin, I can see if I toggle that off and on, pretty cool. You can see the difference there. This does look like an area that's got some coniferous trees as well, so maybe not as big of a difference. But we've got 13 states. We're hoping to add more. Unfortunately, I don't have a list. I don't have it memorized what 13 are available. But if you have an elite membership, you can turn this on your side. If you're not seeing this selector switch, you might need to update your app, especially if you haven't done it for a few weeks or months. Then that should show for you. So give it a test. See if we have it in your state. I apologize. I don't have time to scroll around to every state east of the Mississippi, but we do have that option, and we're hoping to add as many states as we can get imagery for. Let's see. Question on how do I upgrade my membership before my current subscription expires? I had to cancel my current subscription because I could not upgrade. This sounds like it's best handled by our customer support team, because there can be some differences depending on how you purchased your current membership whether it was through our website, whether it was through something like a redemption code that you could buy in a store, whether it was through the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. So yeah, every one of those is going to be handled a little bit differently. And without being able to look at your account to see exactly how you had purchased, I would recommend getting a hold of our customer support team. You can either email them help@onxmaps.com or give them a phone call. It's 406-540-1600. They'll be able to get you taken care of and get you upgraded and make sure you're not accidentally charged double or anything like that. So any questions as far as upgrading, downgrading, changing credit card info, payment stuff, customer support, that's going to be your best option. Does onX Maps have coverage in Argentina? We do not. We are just in the United States and Canada right now. Clear way to identify water sources, i.e. smaller streams, creeks, etc. What I would do is go into your base map button that I have pulled up right here, turn on the topo base map. That's going to let you see all these blue lines and blue polygons are waterways. Now this is an area in northern Wisconsin. So you see we've got a pond here or a lake. This stream kind of coming off the northeast there is a solid line. So that's going to be a more permanent, larger type of stream or creek. This dotted one coming off the east here, that's going to be maybe more of a seasonal, ephemeral type stream that may or may not have water in it at a specific time of year, or it's just a much smaller one than the more major one you see there. So that's what I use when I'm looking for water. Another thing I do, especially in the West where we're a much more arid region, is I will use my satellite imagery to try to find, I don't have an example right now, but use that imagery to try to find areas that are darker vegetation. It means there's water there, may or may not be running at any given time. It might just be snow melt in the spring. But that's how you can kind of find those water sources if they're not shown on your topographic map. Let's see. Is there an undo button for when I accidentally delete something? Great question, Brandon. There isn't currently on your end, but our customer support team can restore accidentally deleted markups. So if you accidentally delete a track, a waypoint, a line distance measurement, an area shape tool, shoot us an email, give us a call. We're able to go in on the back end. We can't see any of that. That's another question we sometimes get. We're not able to see the actual waypoint. We can just see, it's like a line of text that basically tells us this waypoint was deleted on this date and this time, and we can go in and restore that for you. So if you're like, hey, I accidentally deleted some waypoints on, October 9th in the morning, then we can go in and find those and get those restored for you. So great question there, Brandon. John asks the difference between hunt, off-road, and backcountry maps. So there is significant overlap between our three apps, hunt, off-road, and backcountry. They're all made with a specific user group in mind. Hunt was our first app, was made for hunters. Off-road for people that like off-roading, riding Jeeps, dirt bikes, side-by-sides. And backcountry is more human-powered travel. So for folks that like to go backcountry skiing and snowboarding, through hiking, things like that. There is a lot of overlap. There is a lot of the same information. The public land information's on all of them. You can get private landowner information on all of them. You can get the roads and trails. But for example, off-road and backcountry doesn't have the hunting districts, doesn't have the hunting specific information because those user groups typically don't need those. On the hunt side of things, we don't have as in-depth like trail conditions as off-road does, for example, because it's just not quite as applicable usually to that user group. So that's the difference there. We do have more of a breakdown on our website. If you're wondering about getting multiple apps, that's certainly an option. Our customer support team can kind of get you set up and talk through some pricing options there. But generally speaking, if you're mainly a hunter that off-roads once in a while, you're probably going to be good with just the Hunt app because it does have those roads and trails on there. I mean, if you want to buy all our apps, go ahead. But to try to save you a little bit of money, if you're mostly one thing and you do a little bit of the other thing in the off season, you probably can get by with just one of them. Let's see, Claude asked, how do I set up onX so it opens to your current location? So that's not necessarily an option right now, due to, I believe it has to do with some different privacy laws and things like that. We're not able to show your current location or open automatically to your current location. You do have to tap the location button in the lower right-hand corner. I'm going to tap that right now, and then it brings the map to my location. What we do by default is we show the last area that you were looking at on the map. So if you were looking at your home and you were at your house, the next time you open it up at home, it'll show your location. But if you were looking at a spot 20 miles away and then you open it up, it's still going to show that spot 20 miles away until you hit that location button. And then onX is able to ping your phone or your tablet to pull up your location on the map. See a question from Phil. I think we probably already answered this for you. He was talking about that issue in Laurel, Montana, where south of 90 looks like a CAD drawn map. Go into map layers, go into roads, trails, and rec, and turn off the forest visitor map layer, Phil. That's what's causing that goofy coloration for you. Let's see here. Sid asked, if I'm sharing something, does the receiver need to have onX? They do not. If you're sharing a waypoint or a track with somebody who doesn't have onX, they'll get that message on their phone, whether it's a text or an email or however you sent it. When they tap on the link, it will prompt them to download onX, which is free. So they can do that. They can start a free account and get set up, and then they'll be able to receive that share from you. But they don't have to have it beforehand to be able to get it on their side. Bob asked, here's a good question, how to use offline mode. This is one of the most common questions we get, so we'll run through it here. For when you're in an area where you don't have service, you're going to want to save an offline map before you lose service. So do this when you're at home, when you have good Wi-Fi. The lower left-hand corner of my tablet, I'm tapping the button that says offline maps. Then I'm tapping new map. And whatever is within this red box on my screen is what is going to be saved for offline use. So I can still move it around if I want. Just going to move it to a random spot here. Let's say this is where I want to go. That all looks good. All right, within that red box, that's the area I'm planning to hunt, let's say. I can choose my detail down below. If I pull this up, you can see better. I can choose different resolutions, low, medium, high. It is going to change the size of your map a little bit. We're just going to use medium for right now for these demonstrations. That's what I use 9 times out of 10 anyway, because it gives me a little bit bigger area, but I still have pretty good image resolution. I'm going to name my map. I'm just going to give it a generic name for right now. What I do typically on my personal account is I will name the map based off like a geographic feature most of the time. So if I'm hunting the Bitterroot Valley, just south of town here, for example, I'm going to save a couple of maps, and because the Bitterroot Valley runs north and south, I might stack 3 on top of each other, and I might have one labeled Bitterroot North, Bitterroot Central, Bitterroot South. And then I save all those. That way, when I have a whole list of maps saved on my phone or my tablet, I know where I have a map saved. I know which maps are which, so that I know I'm good to go. So I tap the save button there. You can see that's downloading. And here's all of my other maps that I have saved on this test account here. You can see I have some in the Tobacco Roots, Bob Marshall, one in Minnesota, all over the place. And another question we get from people, it says update available. What does that mean? That means that something has changed on that map since you downloaded it. Most commonly, this is going to be property ownership information that has changed. You don't have to update a map to be able to use it. That's another misnomer we hear from folks like, oh man, I was driving out, you guys updated it, and then I couldn't use the map. I can still use like this Bob Marshall map that I have saved. If I was going to go to the Bob Marshall Wilderness this weekend, I could still use it without updating. It's just there's a piece of information within that map that has changed, that is no longer accurate, no longer reflected on the map I have saved on that device. To update it, I just tap that green circle with the check mark in it. That updates it. You can also tap on the ellipses, those 3 dots to the right, and hit update. Either way, should only take a few seconds to update. Again, do this when you think about it. Do this before you head out. Tomorrow, when I open this up, it will probably say update available because our mapping team is constantly updating stuff. So you can update as often as you want. I typically will do it like Friday morning. If I'm going hunting Saturday, Sunday, I'll update the maps I'm going to use that weekend and then go and be good. If you don't, no big deal. You're probably still going to be okay. Just make sure you do it every once in a while. Probably don't want to go years between updates because something substantial could change there. It's a good question there, Bob from Hawaii. Let's see. Danny asked, will we be able to receive trail cam pics from Bushnell Cam if the camera is in non-service wilderness area? Gary, feel free to jump in here with anything I miss, but if the camera doesn't have cell service, there's no way for it to send that image out. It'd be like trying to make a phone call without having cell phone service, right? So if you do have a cell camera, you want to connect it to your onX Hunt app to have it automatically, to have it send those images to you. It does have to be in an area that has adequate cell service, adequate coverage there.
Yeah, that's right, Jack. And I was monitoring the chat here. I think there's a few other trail camera questions. Maybe I can hit kind of at the same time. Yeah, it's spot on. I mean, if you're integrated with a cell camera solution, that cell camera has to have service to get it to the partner app first. But if you're out in a particular area and you don't have service, those images, if you've integrated your camera to onX, they're not going to get to your app while you don't have service. But of course, if you go home and where you go to a place where you have service, all those that have been captured during that entire time, they're going to make their way down to your Hunt app. So that's kind of one part. One person in the chat here asked a question about just what's the benefit of integrating cameras, and then someone says about, can you quickly explain the feature in general? So I will keep it brief, but one of the things we built this year was just a trail camera solution, a holistic trail camera solution. And what I mean by holistic is if you go into web or to your phone, you can add any SD camera from any brand that is available today. So if I mentioned a couple of brands earlier that we integrate with, if we don't have one of those, or if you just have a lot of your cameras are not cellular, but you still want to have your cameras represented where they are on the map, what direction they're facing, you want to be able to upload camera images to those cameras, that's all available today. On the cell camera side, we do have integrations with Bushnell, Exodus, and Covert. And so you could go to their apps and then, like I said earlier, kind of select the cameras, the ones you want to share, and then those images will come over. And one of the big benefits we've seen from folks so far is really if you're using those brands in particular, or if you're using a lot of SD cameras, it's really like a holistic place or one place to have all of your cameras and all of your images in one place. And so you don't really need to go to 5 different apps or 3 different apps or anything like that. If you put them in the onX Hunt app, you can get all of your images, and then you know where all those cameras are at any given time. Additionally, and we did a masterclass, I think, on this a while back, but one of the items about having all those cameras and photos in the Hunt app is that every time you're moving those cameras, we're going to keep track of that history. So where they were, on your back 40 or on the South Food plot or wherever you might place in cameras. And all of the images are going to be kind of synced together with those where those were placed. So if you have 100 images that came through during this date range, and you had it coming through for one camera that was at a particular location during that date range, we're going to automatically sync those together so that you can see over time, well, maybe that place I had it last 2 weeks of October last year, maybe that's a good spot, and I should go place my camera back there again. So those are some of the benefits so far folks are seeing with the trail camera feature.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. I'm excited to see where that all goes here, because we're just kind of getting started with it. A couple more questions here. Paul asked, before onX, I had a bunch of waypoints on Google Maps. Any way to import or overlay those? Yes. Let me share. So you have to do this on the computer, or that's the best way to do it. So I'm going to share my screen here. So I logged into my account, onxmaps.com. Same email and password I use on my phone or tablet. In the upper left corner here, I go to My Content, and I hit Import. So what you need to do is export those waypoints out of Google, or if you had them on a GPS or any other program, export them, save that file onto your laptop or your desktop computer. Once you have that file, you're able to go in here, go to My Content, click Import, select that file from your computer. It needs to be in KML or GPX format. Once you have that selected, I don't have any on this computer, so I'm not going to do that right now. You'll be able to click this import button, and that will bring everything into the map there. We also have tutorials on this, FAQs on our website. And again, if you have any trouble, need somebody to walk you through it, customer support, help@onxmaps.com. They can take you through all of that stuff. It's a good question, Paul. Rex asks, sometimes I forget to stop my track and then it tracks my drive home. Can you show me how to eliminate a section of track? I did that this weekend. I was halfway home and I realized, oh man, I never turned my tracker off. I don't have a track saved on this account, but what you can do, at least I don't think I do. I did at one point. I don't anymore. My apologies. So what you can do, if you've got that track running still, go ahead and stop the track, hit save, just like you would do normally, and then go back like you were gonna edit that track. Tap on the track, and along the bottom, you might have to slide the options left or right. There will be an option that says trim track. Then that will give you the option you can trim either side of it. So you can trim off, most commonly, the end of it, trim off however many miles or however far, you drove that you didn't want to have saved, get it back to just the track portion that you want saved. You can trim it there. That is permanent. So I mentioned earlier, if you delete a track or you delete a waypoint, we can restore it. But if you trim something and you trim it too much, we're not able to restore the portion that you had trimmed off. So you want to make sure you got it set where you want it before you hit confirm and actually trim it. But that's how you do it. Tap the track, select the trim a track feature, trim it down to what you need, and then save it again. So I've worked at onX for over 5 years. I still do that a couple times a year where I forget to turn my tracker off when I'm back to the truck and I got a track going, down the interstate leading back to Missoula or something. Another question, does having multiple states on slow down onX? It really shouldn't if you have a bunch of states turned on, in your map layers. We have seen if you have like a lot of states, like you got 10 states turned on, for example, I have seen that where it can, just because it's more data for the app to load, I have seen that slow things down. My general rule of thumb is I generally don't have more than 2, maybe 3 states turned on at once. If you're hunting like the boundary of some states and you've got a license in both, or you just, you want to be able to see the information on both sides of the border, having 2 on generally isn't an issue. Having 3 on. Once you start getting 5, 6, 7, 8, you might start seeing some performance degradation there. So I would just go in and turn those off. You can always turn them back on when you need them. Lynn asks, how do I draw a box around a grass plot or draw around any item without doing a waypoint? So that's going to be a use for the area shape tool. You can do this on your phone as well by going into tools. Since I have Web Map pulled up, I'll demonstrate that here. I go into my tools, I click the area shape tool, this menu pops up. Now let's say I just wanted to highlight this block for whatever reason. I just click on the areas, click on the corners, click on what I want to highlight. I can choose what color I want. There was a question in there about having no fill color. I can select this one right here so that it's transparent. I can change the color of the boundary, whatever I want. I can make it dotted, I can make it bolder or less bold. I can name it. I recommend always naming any of your markups so that it's easier to organize them and tell what you have later. Let's just say hypothetically this was a food plot that I had planted, food plot number 1. And then I hit save. So now you can see, since I made it brown and since there's no fill, it is a little bit hard to see, but that's how you can do that. I can always go back in, change the coloration on that if I want. Now it stands out a little bit more. So that's how you would highlight. People do this for areas they plan to do like a prescribed burn. They'll do this for food plots. Is probably one of the most common we see, where they have different colors and different highlights for different types of food plots. Really, the reasons for doing this are kind of endless. Those are 2 of the most common we have. But that's how you would draw around an area instead of just placing a waypoint. Michael asked about getting coordinates. Are coordinates available on the map? So if you are able to see, it's kind of small probably on Zoom in the lower right-hand corner. We do show the coordinates below the weather and the base map buttons here. The way that if I need to get coordinates for an area, what I typically do is I query the map. I just click on it and I've got the coordinates right there if I want to copy and paste them to another application or send them to somebody. And you can do this on your phone as well. Just tap on an area in the card that pulls up. You can get the coordinates for that spot. Can you edit the lat long coordinates on a waypoint? You cannot go in and retype the lat long for a waypoint to move it to a different area. But if I want to move a waypoint to a different spot, I'm going to click this orange one here that I have saved. I'm going to hit edit. And then I can drag it wherever I want. On your phone, it's more of a tap. You just tap to where you want to move it to. But that's how you change the position of a waypoint. We just don't have the option right now. I think that's how some GPS devices used to do it, to type the coordinates in. What I just showed there is how you would adjust the position of a waypoint on your map. Let's see. How does onX track our movements when we are offline? Great question. So it kind of goes back to those offline maps, the one I showed, how to save a little bit earlier. So the GPS receiver in your phone doesn't operate on the cell network. It operates, with the GPS satellites that are orbiting the Earth, just like a handheld GPS does. That technology's been around for quite some time. Your phone or tablet, most tablets, I should say, have that receiver in there. So it communicates right with the satellites, doesn't need cell service. So that's how you're able to see your location, even when you're offline, if you're in airplane mode or something like that. Question about, Jacob sent in a couple about marshes and how to see where an area might be marshy or not. So we do have in the layers, what you can do is go into the trees, crops, and cover and turn on this wetland layer. So there are two sub-layers there. I have them both turned on, woody wetland and herbaceous wetland. So if I zoom out, you can see these blue areas here are showing the wetlands. So this is along the river where the Clark Fork and Bitterroot come together by Missoula here. Showing those wetland areas. They may or may not be wet at any given time of year, depending on river levels and depending on precipitation. But Jacob, that's what I would recommend in your area. Of course, in Florida, there's an awful lot of wetlands and marsh. So it may not dial it down specific enough for what your specific use case is. But that's what I use to tell if an area is likely to be holding water or a lot of mud or muck or something like that. Turn that off here. Let's see, what time are we at? I'm gonna post the giveaway link in the chat here. Let me stop sharing real quick so I can do that. We got about 10 minutes left or so. But if you want to get entered to win an onX hat, giveaway link is in the chat there. We're going to keep that open until about 3 o'clock Mountain Time today, so about 3 more hours. That's 5 o'clock for you folks on the East Coast. Get entered there. We're giving away some Blaze Orange hats. Doesn't cost you anything. We just ask for your mailing address, so if you win, we can send it out to you. Let's see. Gary, anything else you're seeing in here that we should hit on before we go?
No, I don't think so. Though there's a couple of questions related to what we call kind of leaf off imagery that we might have touched earlier. So if anybody joined later, this recording will be posted later today or tomorrow. Also related to leaf off, we mentioned 13 states available. I think our website is only currently listing 11, but Wisconsin and Kansas were added this last Friday. So that's kind of where we got that 13 number up to. I think someone asked a question about that. Just need to update the website to reflect all 13 of those. And then there's a few, maybe 2 or 4 that are coming soon. So if you live in one of those states, definitely keep your eye out on those coming soon states.
I see your friend Rachel here. Another onXer was in the chat, had posted current states: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arkansas, Virginia, Vermont, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Ohio, New York, Tennessee, and then Wisconsin and Kansas, you said, for the most recent additions. Excellent. Paul asked, will a link to this recording be posted or emailed to us? Yes to both. We'll have this up on the onX Hunt YouTube channel as soon as we can get it uploaded, either this afternoon or most likely early tomorrow. And we'll also send you an email about this time tomorrow with the link so you can go back and watch it. Let's see. Question about sun position and or moon position phase features available or planned. I don't know exactly what you're getting at there, John, but we do have moon phase in there and sunrise and sunset data. So I'm going to go back and show you how to turn that on here. Share my screen. So this is all within the weather features of the app. So I can click on this lower right-hand weather button here, and that's going to tell me sunrise, sunset, and you can do this on your phone as well. You can access the weather there. If I scroll down, it gives me the extended forecast, hourly forecast, and then moon phase. So I can click on this moon phase calendar where it's going to tell you when the moon rises, when it sets, when it's overhead, when it's underfoot, what the phase is going to be you can go out, I think we go out for years on this, what the moon phase is going to be on a certain day. So that's what I would do. You can also get to the weather information I just clicked on the map there, click this weather tab in the card here, get all that same information right there. Good question on that, John. Let's see, find a couple more here. Oh, here's a question. This was one of the registration ones sent in that I wanted to get to. How can I determine the county of a given location within the app? So to do that, I apologize for kind of jumping back and forth here. I'm limited on the amount of screens I have. But if you query the map in an area, see, this tells me this is Montana government lands, and then it gives me the county in the query card there. So we have that nationwide, whether it's county, borough in Alaska, parish in Louisiana. It'll tell you if you just tap on the map, pull up that card. You might have to scroll down a little bit, but then it'll tell you what county you're in. So super useful for those folks that have, like county bag limits, or you have to report what county you harvested an animal in, or something like that. A couple more questions popping up. We did touch on update frequency earlier. Land ownership is updated in kind of conjunction with your county update schedule. In most cases, we try to update as often as your county does. So whether that's monthly, quarterly, yearly, we try to match that. So there's 3,000, 3,100 county or county equivalents in the US. I don't have all those memorized. But we try to update as frequently as there is new data available. Satellite maps, for our regular base map, satellite maps, that's going to be more on the, it's going to be years between updates. There's just not new imagery taken all that frequently. So say on average 3-4 years or so. We do have the recent imagery. That's a little bit lower resolution we demonstrated earlier. So that's another option there for you to take a look at what's going on kind of right now on the ground. Danny, a couple people mentioned they're in Canada. Apologies, we're not set up to do giveaways in Canada right now. We'll look at doing that. Apologies there for right now. The only option is in the US, but hopefully we can I'll work with fulfillment so that we can get those folks taken care of and hopefully winning some stuff in the future. Sorry about that. Gary, anything else you think we need to touch on before we leave? I know we didn't get to every question, but hopefully we answered some of the big hitters for folks.
Nothing comes to mind right now. I think you mentioned maybe we could recap like the frequency of these sessions so that if folks want to dial into another one here in the near future, they can have an opportunity to get a question answered there.
Yeah, so we're trying to do these about every 2 weeks as much as we can with different schedules. I'll pull up the link where you guys can see all of our upcoming classes, and I'll post that in the chat as well. So we do different kind of topical classes at least once a week generally. So our next one's going to be on trail camera integration and some more in-depth whitetail specific features, since we're kind of coming up on the heart of the whitetail season for folks. That's going to be next Tuesday, the 17th. Next Thursday, we have an onX Hunt 101. So that is where I basically take you through, it's about a 90-minute class, and that's going to be the basics of how to use the app kind of as a brand new user, just got it or just thinking about downloading it. That's what those 101s are for. We do have all the old ones on the YouTube. If you don't want to wait for the one next week, you can view the old ones. But that would be a good one. We did have a few people in the registration question just say, hey man, I just need a basic tutorial. 101's your best option for that. And we are doing another office hours on the 24th. So So 2 weeks from today, we'll do another one of these sessions. We'll probably also have Jeff Armentrout, one of our other, I don't even know what his title is, head engineer type of guy who makes sure things get done. He's kind of got his hands in everything. So he's out pheasant hunting, I think, right now. But he'll be in. And then we are taking a little bit of a break. I'm going to be in the north woods of northern Minnesota deer hunting in early November. No cell service there, but then we'll pick the office hours back up late November, and then we'll probably continue those on a bi-weekly schedule after that. So check out that website I posted in the link. We update that every time we schedule a new class. We add it to the list there. So check back frequently for those new updates. And then with that, I've been trying to come up with a great sign off. I don't have anything, Walter Cronkite like or anything like that. So if anybody has any good sign offs for us, let us know. But Gary, thanks for joining us, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, folks.